Reflections. Our last Gold Spring Reflections discussed focusing on airline labor shortages, rising prices, and the fact our entire industry ecosystem is challenged at the moment. Now, there's not a travel buyer, who at least we've spoken with, who's not fielding customer service complaints from their travelers. It's a big challenge, and no matter how much they communicate with their stakeholders, travelers are running out of patience, and it's really taking a toll on their programs. So today, we will focus on travel management companies, and we will begin with our recognized industry-leading consultant, who owns our TMC category, by the way, Will Tate, with TMC Economics.
Thanks, Cindy. Well, we all know that, when COVID started, revenue was decimated. So we had travel agencies working for no income, right? They were on transaction fee primarily. No income was earned. Therefore, they're doing refunds and voids. They were still doing reporting. They were still having account management. So they had a lot of costs and no revenue. In addition, the labor shortage has driven prices up. Labor prices are rising anytime we've got a shortage of supply, but a high demand. We're going to have that. And labor itself generally represents about 50% of the TMC fees. So during COVID, we had a number of people move to either all manual transactions, saying, I don't want to do any online because I want to stop for safety, security, risk protocols, pre-approval, things like that. But all that did was create more and more manual transactions, which exacerbated the issue. In addition to that, we're seeing labor pool changes. We've seen TMCs change from maybe a dedicated approach to clients moving into a designated, maybe a designated into a pool approach, and so on. So that's what we've seen in economics that have put tremendous pressure on the TMC. Neil, where do you see all of this leading us?
Well, what I'm hearing from a number of clients that we've spoken to is that discussion between the dedicated teams, moving towards dedicated teams. They're thinking that may be a better solution. I'm not so sure that it is. And you're the TMC expert here. What do you think? Do you think clients should be exploring, moving from a general pool service center to dedicated teams? Will that solve their response issues?
It will not, because of the tremendous pressure we have in the labor market. I understand the desire to, because we want better service, and in a dedicated team, we better can control the service delivery and those kind of things. The challenge is that shrinks the labor pool, and it shrinks the ability for a TMC to service more and more clients. So if you can imagine shrinking those to dedicated teams, you might have 10 dedicated teams that would be the equivalent of 100 pool teams. So because of those economics, it's not going to make sense, even though we want service to rise. And because of that, you're really going to have to put pressure in the TMC relationship in a different way if you want to mitigate some of these kind of things. Neil, what do you see?
Well, I agree with you there, Will. I think it's not good for the greater good, if you like, for the generic problem. And I think at the same time, for some size accounts, you're not going to be able to handle that surge if there's a surge in activities. They're not going to be, a dedicated team won't be able to respond to that. I'm thinking maybe a hybrid solution where you have some overspill is probably where we want to go, and maybe using the word designated instead of dedicated as well. Perhaps that's more the solution.
It might be, and then the other pieces of the solution puzzle that we're all working towards is, one, we've got to automate the low value transactions, because we can't afford to put those in the labor pool. They're too expensive. So we can change those from $25 or $40 a transaction into pennies per transaction. So we've got to automate those. We've got to improve electronic and digital bookings. So chat, mobile, email, all of those things, we've got to put an emphasis on that. And we've got to bring back the online booking tool in a broader way. And that may mean changing some pre-trip approvals, changing some other backstops that we have that kind of were put in for safety and security protocols, and making them a little bit more expansive and a little more flexible. The last point of this really, Cindy, and I'll turn it back to you, is we've got to have some patience in this. There's a tremendous issue and tension in the marketplace. We see that with airports and airlines. We see it with travelers on the phone to travel agencies. We see that in canceled flights. So we have to build some patience into the system.
So Will, I'm seeing that there's one more dynamic I think that's in play here, and that is we're seeing a lot of RFP activity out there. There is a lot. I mean, there's a lot of clients out there who may be worried about the viability of some of the smaller TMCs, and we're just seeing a lot of RFP activity out there. So that I'm thinking that with the current constraints, some of the TMCs are going to be very picky about which bids they choose to bid on or not. And we have seen in some of our activities some declines to bid that we weren't seeing before. We've seen sometimes in those traditions the largesse, the generosity, the flexibility that the outgoing TMC extended during the transition period has perhaps not been afforded in some cases as they want to move on and service their future clients. Perhaps I'm thinking as well, TMCs are really going to be focusing on the clients that are profitable and the ones that they can service better. Maybe they're going to be looking for clients with higher online booking transaction rates. So I think that buyers have got to be, good customers as well and good prospects for TMCs now more than ever.
Spot on.
It's really interesting conversation and discussion. And if we reflect, the workload for the travel buyers during the pandemic with non-refundable tickets, workflow approval processes really impacted the workload, even though travel may have been slow. And now they're faced with the challenges around customer service. It's really that right balance of economics and models that's key to the partnership between the travel buyer and leader and the TMC. I guess the good news, we are all entering the period of summer where business travel typically slows down. This period will allow the TMCs to focus on staffing, technology, tools, and prepare for when the fall demand returns. Everyone, thank you for joining Gold Spring Reflections. And next time, we will have Chris Powney, our procurement consultant, sharing his perspective on key issues from the London Business Travel Show. Until then, everyone, keep enjoying your summer. Thank you.